Hypergamy, let's talk about it. Should women be dating broke men? Is dating broke men sustainable? Should we be aspiring for more? Is gold digging the way? Is hypergamy the way? Let's talk about it. So this is going to be a quick video because the sun is about to go down, and obviously I'm not going to use the ring light that I spent hundreds of dollars on. I want to talk about hypergamy. I want to talk about how do finances intersect with our romantic life. Is romance inherently political? And what is with the idea of unconditional love? Hypergamy is the act of a woman marrying someone who is at the level or above her social class. So basically marrying into a family for upward mobility and wealth. So first, I think if you exist in the Twitter sphere, if you are part of feminism Twitter, you have probably heard the sentiment being echoed across the internet that dating broke men is not sustainable. There's an everyday debate about who should be paying on dates. In big 2019, we're still debating who should be paying on dates. The way I feel about it is, look, I think to a certain extent hypergamy is a biological drive that is inherent in women. Look, I think you need to know what you want. I think a lot of women don't get what they want because a lot of women don't know what they want. And the justification for dating rich men is really a gross oversimplification of what the reality is of dating rich men and what the reality is of approaching romance as something that's transactional. And I'm not going to sit up here and say that relationships aren't transactional, because they are. Like, every single relationship is transactional. There's no such thing as unconditional love. And if you think your love is unconditional, then it's more harmful than it is beneficial, because conditions are how you hold people accountable. However, if your transactions are rooted in the material world, if you're dating a man for money or he's dating you for beauty, which is what usually happens in hypergamy, then you need to understand that your relationship is rooted in fundamentally something that is transient. Masculinity, like the construct of masculinity, actually increases in value with its proximity to beautiful women. Having beautiful women by your side or being around beautiful women is a symbol of success for a lot of men. And so when we commodify ourselves, or when we let men commodify us by like getting into these transactional relationships where it's like, you give me money and I'll give you beauty, I find it a bit regressive, and I also find that it makes dating just less beneficial for women, because it's honestly so much easier to make money than it is to stay beautiful your entire life. And so I'll always advocate for making your relationship transactions rooted in emotional support. Money is transient, it comes and goes, it's not real. Beauty is also transient, it decays every day. So if you're entering into that type of transaction, then you need to be real about what that means. So if you are dating a guy for money and he's dating you because you're cute, then you need to know that every day you need to be looking like Rihanna. You can't wake up one morning looking like Aunt Jemima. That's not part of the contract that you signed. And I'm not saying that hypergamists are using people. I'm just saying that the nature of the transaction of hypergamy is fundamentally material. I think one of the problems with romance is that a lot of people go into relationships asking, what can I get out of this, instead of what can I put into this? And the irony or the paradox of that is that you usually get out of relationships what you put in, and not the other way around. And so if you're going into a situation thinking, what can I get out of this, without properly assessing what you can actually bring to the table, how are you actually going to be able to get that? A lot of women are looking for their Barack Obama without realizing that they need to be a Michelle Obama. Why would a guy who is wealthy want to date you just because you're a woman? What are you bringing to the table that would attract someone who's wealthy in the first place? And likewise, if you're looking for someone who's emotionally stable and who is emotionally mature, what are you bringing to the table that would attract someone who's emotionally mature? Like, let's, instead of thinking, what can I get from this? I just think it would be more conducive, even for people who want money, to think, what can I put into this? I fundamentally believe that marriage doesn't benefit women. And there are studies that show this. 10 years in, a guy, after being married, is emotionally better, his life is more organized, his skin is popping, his hair moisturized, his bank account flourishing even more. And women, after 10 years of marriage, not even 10, a good 5 years, you are haggard. You are tired. We need to think about the ways that romance has been constructed. We need to think about the purpose of marriage in society and the way it intersects with white supremacist, patriarchal, capitalist structures. All that to say, marriage doesn't benefit women off the bat. If you're going to get married, don't follow a template. Like, make marriage work for you and the other person. But as it stands, the construct of marriage in 2019 and the way that it's been constructed was not to benefit women. It's been constructed as a way to commodify women and as a way to manipulate women. The reason that hypergamy has become so popular is because this new wave feminism, we've clearly understood that romantic relationships tend to not benefit women. And so a lot of people have posed hypergamy as the solution. I say that because the pursuit of hypergamy is usually, the argument is usually rooted in equality and balance, in that men don't bring anything to the table, so the very least they can do is bring money. And so when you do that, you inherently commodify yourself, because we're taking romance and we're taking marriage back to the construct that commodified women and traded them to men as property. Because hypergamy doesn't dismantle the patriarchy. And there's also no such thing as equality, that's an illusion. There's also no such thing as balance, that's also an illusion. You're never gonna be in any relationship that's equal. If you're in a relationship, assuming it's monogamous, you should both be striving for equality and balance, but also keep in mind that you're never going to achieve it. Money is not the way to achieve equality and balance, unfortunately. I think the best way to strive for equality and balance is A, to know why you're dating to begin with, and then B, to pick someone that complements those reasons. I don't think money solves the issues that are usually prevalent in relationships. I think what's more impressive than being able to make money is being able to sustain wealth, being able to grow money. There's a lot of men out there who are really good at making money, but then they empty their bank accounts on yachts and Jordans and Yeezys. And so a lot of women go into these relationships being impressed by the money that they've made, but without adequately interrogating their capacity to build wealth, because there's a difference between being rich and being wealthy. I will also say that there are certain traits that are required for someone to be like a billionaire, like a multi-millionaire. I think research has shown that capitalism requires and encourages a level of like sociopathy, like a level of lack of empathy. And in order to be part of the 1%, there has to be a 99%. So in order for me to thrive, I need to step on some necks. And so if you are, and I'm not saying that everyone who's rich is unethical, that's not what I'm saying at all. But if you are, there's a certain level of wealth that requires a level of, I need to step on a whole lot of necks. So also keep that in mind when you prioritize wealth over emotional fulfillment. I also think when I listen to people who really argue for hypergamy, there's a lot of dissonance and the contradictions always jump out. On one hand, it's always rooted in like, you need to date rich because you're a feminist and that's equality, like reparations. Where do I even begin with that? I think a lot of mothers encourage their sons to stay away from gold diggers, but at the same time, a lot of mothers encourage their daughters to dig for gold. And so I think when you are a woman, you're encouraged and you're socially conditioned to pursue men who are wealthy, but when you're a man, you're socially conditioned and encouraged to pursue women who aren't looking for wealth. And so there's now a dating marketplace that is rife with contradictions and dissonance between the genders. We need a central message as far as like, what are we really pursuing romance for? Why are we pursuing this thing? We need to be very clear about what the purpose of marriage is. So marriage was honestly designed to sustain family and wealth and not to sustain romance. If anything, romance is really the antithesis of marriage. I think it's important for everyone to really interrogate whether they're looking for a long-term partnership, whether they're looking for a long-term romance. I think marriage is the best way to go if you are looking to build wealth. I don't think it's sustainable to raise a family in a romantic partnership because I think romance is inherently volatile, and I think it's more stable to raise a child with your family or even like with a friend. But romance is wild. I also think we need to deprioritize romance. Like, it's not the end all be all. I think like a lot of people look for romance to be their everything, when really romance is just the icing on a cake, you know? I think if you're looking for someone to give you something that you can't give yourself, especially materially, money is one of those things that is transient. It comes and goes. And so if I'm looking for someone to give me money, is the relationship over once he's broke? Like, once his business goes under, because it probably will, or once the economy is trash, then who am I left with? I'm looking for longevity. I'm looking for substance. Like, I'm really looking to be nourished by my relationships, and I don't think that money can do that for you. And even if it does, I feel like I can get it from myself. So why am I looking for it in someone else? Granted, patriarchy makes it easier for men to make money. That doesn't increase its value for me. Do you know what I mean? And disclaimer, this is not a video that's like everyone should go by what I'm saying. I'm just saying these are my thoughts and my opinions, and I'm not saying that hypergamy is good or bad. I'm just saying let's flesh out the nuances. Let's critically think about what we're actually doing here. And that's that on that. All that to say, I don't think the question is, should we be dating broke men or should we be dating rich men? I think the question is, how can we make relationships benefit us as women? Like, what can we do to get into relationships that benefit us? Because the answer is not money. Unfortunately, capitalism is never the answer, and capitalism has us by the throat. And that's not me saying that you should settle for a bum bitch, a guy with poo in between his bum cheeks who sits on the couch all day. No, that's not what I'm saying. You'll get the most wealth and abundance and emotional security and support from a relationship that's rooted in character as opposed to material. The biggest return on investment from a relationship will always come from the person's character and not from what the person can give you materially. Unfortunately, that's just what it is. Feel free to let me know in the comment section below what you think. What do you think of hypergamy? What do you think of broking date? What do you think of dating broke guys? Do you think it's sustainable? What has been your experience? Let's have chat. I have a podcast called The Bobo and Flex Show. You can listen to us. We talk a lot about relationships. We're on Spotify, SoundCloud, and Apple Music. We also have a Facebook group where we talk a lot about relationships with like-minded, smart, intelligent women. I'm also on Instagram, where I have a lot of conversations about relationships, about sex, about capitalism. I'm on my soapbox every day telling us to dismantle capitalism. Like, the time is now. Let me know your thoughts on this video. Let me know what has been your experience with money in relationships, and let's take it from there. Bye.